Imagine 200 years into the future. An old student is cleaning out their grandparents' attic, and they find an old photograph, and it's you. They don't know your grades, they don't know where you worked or what car you drove. They don't know how many followers you had, but they do know one thing, and it's that they exist because you existed. And whether you have children or not, whether your name will appear in textbooks or nowhere at all, someday you will become someone's ancestor. And the real question isn't if you will be remembered. The real question is, what kind of ancestor are you going to be? Now, when we hear the word ancestor, we think of people from centuries ago, people in black and white photographs, kings, queens, inventors, people who shaped history. But what if I tell you that history isn't shaped only by famous people? They're also shaped by ordinary people making extraordinary decisions. In fact, every single comfort that we enjoy today exists because someone that we'll never meet, decided that life didn't have to stay difficult. This microphone exists because someone wanted voices to travel further. When we get sick, we reach for medicine because scientists spend decades solving problems that they may never personally benefit from. Our phones fit an entire library into our pockets because generations of engineers kept asking, how can this be better? We're living inside solutions created by strangers. And every day, we wake up to miracles that have become so ordinary that we barely even notice them. And that got me thinking, if they have done that for us, what are we doing for the people that come after us? We spend a lot of time thinking, what does the future hold? But maybe we've been asking the wrong question. Maybe the better question is, what does the future deserve from us? Because here's something that we rarely think about. The future generations have no voice. They can't tell us what they'll need. All they can do is inherit whatever we leave behind. And that's the ideas we create, the roads we build, the problems that we solve or ignore. Now, I know what you might be thinking. I'm not going to invent the next smartphone. I'm not going to find the cure for cancer. Well, that's okay, because neither am I. Because contribution doesn't always look like a groundbreaking invention. And being a good ancestor isn't about changing the world overnight. It's about refusing to leave the world worse than you found it. Not everyone is called to invent, but everyone is called to contribute. And contribution takes many forms. The world doesn't only need brilliant inventors, it needs compassionate citizens, people who understand that our choices ripple far beyond ourselves. And every time we choose integrity over selfishness, and every time we choose responsibility over indifference, we make a quiet investment in the future. Think about the environment. Planting a tree is an act of faith. Now, if you're thinking, well, I'm just one person, what difference is that possibly going to make? Imagine if every one of us in this room planted just one. Suddenly, it's not just one tree anymore. It's a couple of hundreds. So one small action multiplied by millions of people becomes something powerful. So protecting forests, building, caring for wildlife, they're not just environmental actions. They're promises to future generations that we'll never meet. Now, the same is true for the values that we pass on. because values shape every interaction and every decision that follows. Perhaps the greatest inheritance that we can leave behind isn't values, isn't technology or wealth, it's values. And that's why I believe it's one of our greatest responsibilities, not just to educate the younger generation, but to teach them why they should use this education. We should teach them that every talent that they possess carries a responsibility. If you're gifted in science, then use it to solve problems. If you're gifted in business, then use it to create opportunities. If you're gifted in art, use it to inspire and connect people. If you're gifted in leadership, use it to serve rather than to control. And if you don't believe you have an extraordinary talent, then you can still be an extraordinary citizen, someone who acts with genuine responsibility towards others and honesty. Everyone can choose to make the world a little less harder for someone else. And today, we're surrounded by a culture that often celebrates visibility over value. Young people are constantly shown carefully curated lifestyles and are told that success is measured by followers, luxury, or in going viral. There's nothing wrong with using social media or having ambition, but when those become the only definitions of success, we risk forgetting something far more important. A meaningful life isn't only valued by what you gain, but by what you give. And children shouldn't grow up believing that every trend must be followed, or that the ultimate reward is recognition. They should grow up understanding that purpose matters more than popularity, and that success without contribution is incomplete. Because progress has never depended on millions of people seeking approval. It has depended on millions of people quietly doing their part. Ordinary people who understood that contributing to humanity wasn't something that you did for applause, but it was simply your duty. And if we can pass on this mindset, then we're doing far more than preparing the next generation for successful careers. We're preparing them to become good ancestors. And that is how progress continues from one generation to the next. Not because someone asked, how can I be famous? But because they asked, how can I make life better for someone else? And one day, someone will wake up in a world that we helped shape, that regardless of whether it was a big impact or not, and they may never know our names. They'll never know the sacrifices we made, or the choices that we wrestled with, or the quiet acts of kindness that no one applauded. But they will live with the consequences of these choices every single day. Just as we unknowingly benefit from these creations that make our lives so much easier, somewhere, someone is waiting for a world that only we can build. And I don't know exactly what my contribution will look like. Maybe it will come through science, maybe through education, maybe through the conversations that I have or the people that I will inspire. But I know one thing. I don't want to simply spend my life benefiting from the work of those who came before me. I want to become someone the future can quietly thank. And today I want to make this commitment not just to myself, but to all of you, to leave this world a little better than you found it, a little wiser, a little more hopeful, not for recognition, not for applause, but because that is the debt we owe to the generations that came before us and the promise we make for the future generations to come. So I'll leave you with one question. What kind of ancestor will you choose to become? Thank you.